Welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm Lisa,
And I'm Justine.
and on this episode, we will be talking all about Manchester Orchestra's Mean Everything to Nothing. If you aren't a fan, I think us chatting about this, you'll get the hype. And if you are a fan, I hope that you find something you like again about this one. So, obviously, this record came out in 2009, and that was the second studio album by this band. Critics seem to love this, and I remember not seeing one bad thing about this band or record, except, of course, from Pitchfork. Pitchfork was the one thing that said they didn't like it or it was like dull, which makes sense. And I think that just goes to show for everybody what I always say, do not listen to album and music reviews. I know I might be putting some people out of jobs by saying that, and I don't mean that, but and again, people are going to say, oh, well, Emo Social Club does them. No, no, they are different. They are in a different. I think that publications like Pitchfork, you know what, I'm sure there's wonderful people there, but for me, I just think you always need to find music for yourself and don't, if someone gives it a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, okay, go listen to it because Pitchfork, no. But I think Manchester Orchestra really was something and still is something so special to the music world. I think so many indie bands can be a little pretentious, but this band really wasn't at all. So I think that's why I really love them. But for you, Justine, I want to know, what do you think about this record?
So the first time I had heard of Manchester Orchestra was around 2006, and they had opened for Brand New. And so I fell in love with them way back when they released I'm Like a Virgin Losing a Child, which led me to seeing them like a handful of times. I even got to meet Andy Hall, and
Oh,
he's super nice, super introverted, and kind of shy. I actually have a picture with him and Mike Kinsella at this weird this weird show. It was like an acoustic show in the middle of a cafeteria at a college. Kevin Devine was also with them.
yes, you shared that once, and I
Yeah, it
remember
was.
that's
I feel like that was
wild.
probably the weirdest show I'd been to
Hmm.
because it was like literally in the middle of a cafeteria, and it was like maybe 10 people tops were there. Like there wasn't that many people there, and I got to meet them there, so that was really cool. And I was obviously in very excitable anticipation for this album, and I was actually very hyperfixated on it for a while. Like I've listened to it repeatedly, and it actually was the very first vinyl I had bought. It's just one of those. I feel like it's a feel good album, even though there's some that are like very heavy and heart wrenching with ballads. It's still, for the most part, just is a very uplifting album. And the music videos, they made a music video for every single song, which I've never seen really anybody do. um,
Hmm.
and I always thought that was pretty interesting. And they said that it's kind of to show that it's an all or nothing approach to their work. So like they believe in every single song, not just like one or two. So they put out a video for every single one, which I think is pretty interesting and pretty cool.
That's something I didn't know because, like, I remember seeing those videos, and I think the coolest thing, first of all, I'm jealous you met Andy because I've never met any of them, and I've seen them in smaller places where I could and should have. But to me, much like you, it was brand new, was my gateway into Manchester because obviously, I think I got into really into them. I think it was 2007. I saw them open up for Brand New at the Vic in Chicago. And if anyone knows about that, like, and just I think about Brand New and how, not that this is a brand new episode, but like that Brand New got so big, like the fact that they were playing the Vic and then they went on to like the Aragon, which I saw Manchester again because like once Manchester and Brand New toured, they toured together all the time, which really led me to really fall in love with this band. But it was like that year, I remember 2007. So before this record came out, I was just like, okay, who is this? I'd never seen them. And maybe it was 2006 was the first time, but something about at that Vic show was 2007. And like, just I remember it was one of the first times for me with Manchester that seeing them open for Brand New, they almost stole the show. And I love Brand New, but all I kept thinking and talking about was, who is this band? Because honestly, before I saw Manchester for the first time ever, I always thought, oh, where's the orchestra? Like I literally thought I was singing an orchestra because I,
Anytime I told people about them, they were confused by the name.
yeah. And
Like,
I
yeah.
think some people might still think that for, like maybe
Mhm.
I, maybe not. And I just think they're that band. A lot of people want to call them some emo band. I know they played Riot Fest, they played Cope for the anniversary, but I don't even know if I'd say emo. I just think they're Manchester
I
Orchestra. I don't think you can
I
really say emo.
recently, because I was talking to my fiance about them because he had never heard of them.
Hmm.
And I told him, I'm like, here's the thing, they're not emo, but they're kind of like emo adjacent. They're one of those
Hmm.
bands where they're not emo, but emos love them. And
They
they were
do.
kind of around the same kind of crowds, but they definitely don't sound emo at all. So,
No. And I remember then this record, so leading up to it, I knew I was going to love it. So I was a little biased hearing this record because I already liked them. I already was in love with them. To me, they could do no wrong. But I just think like I remember going to Best Buy to get this record the day it came out and just like I'm going to love this record. And I did. There was not, I mean, I know we'll talk about our tracks, but honestly, this was one of the few that I got, went home, put it in because I don't think I had a record player. So I put it in my CD player and I remember just being like, I remember just being like, this is just wow. And I can't, I remember it came out in April. So like it was a spring record, which I think
mhm.
this is like to me a winter fall record. So for me, it was like, I don't know, it was just massive and I was in love with it right away. But I guess we have to talk about any favorite tracks. Did you have, oh, you probably do, but do you have any favorite tracks off the CD?
Of course. So I have a huge attachment to the only one. The line, I am the only one who thinks I'm going crazy and I don't know what to do. It's so relatable as somebody who has been gaslit and ignored by doctors, let alone just like people in general, and being a late diagnosed autistic. But also, there's a line also in the song where it says, I am the only son of a bastard. I know who knows the bastard too. And if you don't know, the original meaning of someone who's a bastard is somebody who is born out of wedlock, which, or who's illegitimate. And my dad is adopted.
Hmm.
So I always thought it was kind of a funny way to get out frustrations about my dad. And I was just like, I always loved that because I was like, he is a bastard, and I do know this bastard. So I just thought that was hilarious. I would always like, you know, I felt a funny connection towards that.
Yeah.
Also, I love Shake It Out. It's
Hmm.
just such a good song that pumps you up. It gets you going. And I also used to make a joke that when Taylor Swift's Shake It Off came out,
Oh
I would
God.
always just be like, I would rather listen to um Shake It Out instead. Like, this is
Hmm.
better. I also really love I've Got Friends because as somebody who's always struggled to keep friends and make friends, and still to this day I struggle with this. As somebody with autism who has really bad social skills, that song really resonated with me and it still does. And I love it. It's really hard to pick favorites off this album because it's really
Hmm.
good, but like
Oh.
those three in particular are just a little bit higher than the others for me.
Oh, and I just realized when I was like, "Oh, what are your favorite tracks on this CD?" I'm calling it a CD. I am dating myself, this
Well, I
record.
mean, you gotta
Whatever.
think back in the day,
It's a CD. It
that
was and
that
is
was
a
what it was
CD.
for us. It was a CD.
But I was like, "Oh my God." But no, we have some similar ones. Like obviously I have Shake It Up too, and I know it's like the fan favorite or the one that like it was all over Q101, which was our radio station in Chicago. A lot of people Shake It Out was everywhere. But for me, it was just like, even though it was the fan favorite and almost everybody knows that song, there is just something of that's about that song. And there's a certain part in that song where it gets really quiet and then it
Mhm.
just bangs up again. And I just think live too, it was just insane live. And I know I'm gonna go like and talk when I talk about my favorite tracks, a lot of them are. because of how I felt when I saw them live. But
Yeah,
like Shake It Out is honestly, if you've never heard of them, if you're on the fence, just go listen to Shake It Out because I guarantee that one would hit so many different people that like different genres. I can feel a hot one. There's just something just so beautiful and special. And I just think, again, like it's one of my favorite songs of all time. And like it's one of them. Like it's up there. When I think about all the different favorite songs I have, I can feel a hot one. And I know I've been on some other shows and they've asked me my favorite songs and I have not listed it. But like, I don't know, I didn't think of it. But when we were listening to this record, I was like, there's just something about that one in the winter time, the fall time. Like, this is my mode. As much as this came out in April, this is my time to go like listen to Manchester. Like, I cannot wait to like, it's starting to get a little cooler and I can just listen to it. And then In My Teeth, because I just feel like in my friend group, nobody liked this song.
I
Nobody,
liked this song. It's a good
no,
one. I almost put this one on
that
my mentions.
nobody liked it. And I'm like, there's just, I think because a lot of my friends that liked Manchester, they liked, I don't know, just different sounding parts. Where this one, I don't know, it just, I feel like it's just something so unique about it. And I just love a song with a journey. And I just think like when you listen to this with headphones, you get little bits of it. And it just is Andy Hall in Manchester at their best. I know like Manchester's obviously a band, but for me, it's like Andy Hall, like his vocal range, his voice, the way like he can just take you to so many journeys in a song with his voice. I love Andy Hall. And that's why, again, I'm so jealous you met him because he just seems like that musician that like wants, and all of Manchester, that they just want to play music because they love music. They're not in it for anything else. And I just felt like even like who they've taken on tour, right? For their own tours. I just feel like they're so important. And this record was just slept on by some people around me. And I hope that people go back to it because I love Cope. I love that they're doing, I'm so bummed that that tour with celebrating Cope is with Thrice and it's not coming by me. I understand routing, but I'm like, really? Like, come on, give it to me. Those are my two all-time favorite bands. So like I'm jealous if anyone gets to go to that. But yeah, it's so hard to pick any like I could be here all day talking about like my favorites on it, but those were just my top ones. But Justine, were there any that you didn't like or like aren't your favorite on here?
So the album as a whole is perfect, but everybody who knows me knows how I am with like slower, sadder songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to skip Can I Feel a Hot One and $100
Yeah.
because I just like they're a lot slower, they're a lot sadder. They're beautiful songs. It's just one of those things where me personally, I just tend to skip slower songs because let's face it, I'm already very sad. I don't need to fixate on like the slower, sadder songs. So that's just why. It's not because I don't like him. It's just because I need to fixate more on upbeat or louder songs personally.
Yeah, the one thing I love about Feel a Hot One is like the part where it's like, and I felt love again. And it's just, I don't know, there's something about the way Andy sings it, but I get it. Like, there's a lot of people I know, like, that are in that same range with this, where there's some songs that they're just like, ah, like, I don't really need to listen to another, like, sad song if I'm, or slower, like, because I get it. Like, I just think for me, the only one, and I'm like, I don't want to put shade on it, but would be like $100. Like the same
Yeah.
thing. And it's weird because I like feel a hot one, but like for me, I don't know. Something about $100. I always just skip it at times, but it's still great. And I know people that love that song.
Yeah.
It just is sometimes I'm just like, again, if I'm in a certain mood, like sometimes maybe I'll
Yeah.
listen to it if I'm in a mood, like to listen to that. But yeah. But I mean, other than that, I guess like too, I don't know, like what else can we say? Like, is there anything else that you think we didn't say about this record? Or did we cover it
Um,
all?
I feel like we covered it all. Like this is just one of those albums I can listen to and it's like There's certain albums and songs that can kind of transport you back into time, and this is one of those. Like, this is very much nostalgia for kind of like that time frame of like earlier 2000s, and makes you go back and remember where you were at, how you were listening to it, what was going on in your life. And that's one that what it did for me. And I still kind of feel that way. And because like when we were talking about doing this episode, that's I decided to start going back and listening to it again. And it was just immediately like it's like I picked it up right where I left it off, one of those kinds of albums where it was like, it's been so long since I've listened to this. And it just starts making you think of all those memories, everything that had made you feel before. And it's just a really good album. And I think that if anybody hasn't listened to it or didn't quite give it what it deserved, should go back and listen to it because it's a really an amazing album.
No, I'll tell you the last time I listened to it was last fall, winter. We were doing our fall winter records. That's the last time I've listened to it and like going back to it again, I was just like, this is still, it's so slept on by people I know that like indie music or
Mhm.
emo, whatever you want to call it, like that American
Yeah,
football-esque. And it's like, they're just so good. And I just think that
I
they're gonna,
definitely think they're a band that tends to get overlooked quite a bit in the scene for sure. Like just in
Mhm.
general, not just with this album, but like as a whole. It still shocks me how many people I know don't know who they are because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you should.
Yeah, like that's the thing too. And I mean, I would just say too, like, go listen to this record if you're hearing this and you were someone that slept on it, or I don't know, maybe you were also younger because I think too, right? The time it came
Yeah.
out, I think if I was younger, because honestly, like when Deja Entendu came out, and not saying like comparing brand new again, but I remember even for me at the age I was for Deja, I was like, this is too mature for me. And then a year, I needed some time. And same with like Devil
Yeah.
and God. I think Devil and God in this one mean everything to nothing to me. I think similar of like, had I not been older and that maturity of like maybe life shit or just music wise, maybe I wouldn't have liked it. So I think if you were younger, maybe you probably were like, this is like college kid music.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why.
Because it was college age for me when it came
Same.
out.
Right.
And it's like one of those things I noticed this a lot with a lot of bands that I like and stuff. There'll be an album I was like, I didn't get into, but I listened to it way later and
Right.
ended up liking it. And I
Oh,
feel like this is definitely one of those cases where, honestly, anytime that you are listening to a band, you're like, I didn't get into the album. And a lot of time has passed, I definitely think you should go back and try
mhm.
again because that's happened to me so many times
Yeah.
where then I'm like, and then I love an album and I'm like, oh, why didn't I
Mhm.
get this back then? You
I
know?
I think that is probably like with this record when I think about it and like us talking about it, it's like, yeah, that's probably it because
Yeah.
I was just in that big indie phase in my life. I was in college. I was doing all that. So like for me with all the cool scarves and the indie, look, I had to listen to the indie music. So, you know, but but it's like, yeah, no. Just looking back, and I think it still holds up. So I'm very glad they're talking about Cope. I would love to see something with this. I don't
Yeah.
even know
I
what
would too.
year it's on. I gotta go look.
Like Cope is
2009.
great. Cope is great. But I would really be interested in them revisiting this or like a
Mhm.
virgin losing a child.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And like that's a thing
So,
too. Like I had to go back to A Virgin Losing a Child because again, I think I was that person when that came out. Yeah, I saw them and I did that, but it wasn't until 2007 when that had already been out that I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand. I feel this now because I was a little older. I mean, even a year older, but still like that time of just being that way. But I guess, yeah, everyone just go check out Manchester. But I have to shout out Justine because when we were talking about records and other episodes we can put out because we love our guests. They're great. And I love those conversations. But it's always just so nice to hop on here and talk about records that we love and also records that I don't see other podcasts doing. So it's like, why not do it? And we both love this one. So, and I have to have a Justine episode because, as you guys know, Justine is having some surgery. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we get Justine love on here in between all the interviews and stuff. But yeah, so I guess just go listen to Manchester Orchestra. We've got another Justine episode on the way. But remember, if you guys are liking the show, to follow and subscribe. It really helps us out, as well as a positive rating or review. New episodes every Tuesday, sometimes Fridays. It depends. I don't know what's going to happen in the coming months, but we'll see. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.